Australia's e-safety commissioner has put the big tech giants on notice, threatening penalties potentially worth tens of millions of dollars if they fail to act on terrorist and violent extremist material. Legal notices have been issued to Google, Meta, X, Telegram, WhatsApp and Reddit amid a surge in reports of harmful content being spread on the platforms. Julie Inman-Grant is the e-safety commissioner and she joins me now in the studio. Good morning to you, Julie. Thanks for your time. You've issued these 6 media companies with these notices. What is the content of most concern?
Well, it runs from a variety of serious terrorist content that you and our children who are starting to see this content as early as primary school cannot unsee. So beheadings, rapes, murder, but there's also things like manifestos or radicalizing material that could range from Islamic State terrorism to conspiracy theories to misogynistic tropes that can spill into real-world harm targeting women.
So what are the current safeguards in place at the moment for this type of material?
Well, it's quite variable right now. The companies are getting together through groups like the Christchurch Call and the Global Internet Forum to Counter Terrorism to share known pro-terror content. We've just put some very strong mandatory codes in place to encourage companies to do more. But again, it's quite variable. So one of the targets of these notices is Telegram, which is the most used platform behind secure messaging for terrorist organization and sharing of content. We know that they have a presence in Dubai and some presence in Europe, but we don't know anything about the trust and safety infrastructure in place or the kind of tools, and this is precisely what we're trying to get to with these notices.
You mentioned Telegram there. Can you tell us a little bit more about the worst offenders here and what your concerns are?
I mean, again, we see pylon attacks that are organized offline in the dark on Telegram. Ostensibly terrorist attacks being organized there. So it's really the worst of the worst, and no government has really been able to take them on and get to those questions. They are what we would call a regulation-resistant platform. So we're under no illusions. Getting the answers that we need from them may be difficult, but we will use all the tools in our enforcement toolkit to try and get that information.
Yeah, I want to ask you about what you're actually asking them to do, but before I do that, I noticed that Snapchat isn't on the list. Why is that?
We're going exactly where the evidence takes us, not only in terms of reports through our online content scheme, but through our work with the OECD and Tech Against Terrorism. Telegram, by far, is the largest platform hosting this content. YouTube is second. And again, we worry about algorithms and sending people down rabbit holes with more extreme content. Twitter X is third, and fourth and fifth are Facebook and Instagram. And we are exploring more around Reddit as well. We know that some white supremacist content has radicalized some of the the Halle, Germany and the Buffalo attackers. So we need to look across the broad spectrum. These are very complex notices, and as a result, we're giving them 49 days rather than the usual 28.
Yeah, talk me through the complexities of the requests here that you're asking these social media giants. What are you asking them to do? How are you ensuring that they are showing that they're protecting Australians?
Well, we spend months and months poring over all sorts of research, including our own evidence through reports, through their transparency reports, and we ask very targeted surgical questions, whereas you'll see entities like the European Commission, which has the Digital Services Act, asking standard questions or that they answer periodically. We're trying to really make sure that they're not putting spin on things and they're giving us valuable information that we can use to understand whether or not they're doing the very basics. If we identify a range of weaknesses, this is where we try and work with the platforms to either voluntarily raise this or to use our codes and mandatory standards to force compliance.
Do you expect that they'll work with you? Have you had any response so far from any of them?
We've had responses from 5 out of the 6 thus far. We just issued the formal notices yesterday evening, but we gave them 5 days in advance to tell us if there were any reason they didn't think they comply with these, and we're in contact with most of them, yes.
Okay, 49 days for them to get back to you to show you that they are protecting people on the platforms. We know that they have very deep deep pockets, these companies. What are the penalties that could result if they don't comply?
Right. Well, I mean, we've had that experience recently with X Corp and Google. We found them both in non-compliance with our notice around child sexual exploitation material. Twitter X's was much more egregious, so we fined them $610,000. They did not pay the infringement notice, so we are in civil proceedings now. It depends on what the court determines.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because $610,000 is a drop in the ocean for what you see Google's bottom line is. Is there room to up those?
Well, the Online Safety Act is being reviewed and looked at so that we can bring some of the quantum of penalties in line with not only other domestic regulators here, but also globally. But I would also say it's not just regulation that is a driver for these companies. Revenue impacts and reputation are very big drivers, and they don't want to be seen as not trusted or unsafe because that directly translates into advertisers voting with their feet, as well as users.